Greetings, nature nerds, and welcome back to Ask an Ecologist. My name is Suzanne Simpson, and I'm an ecologist with Bayou Land Conservancy. Each week, we meet up on Facebook Live, and I take some of your outdoor world nature questions, and we chat about all things that interest us about the outdoors. So let's get into it. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter episode this week because I have been swamped, LOL, this week with some work. And actually, I'm pretty fortunate to be able to shoot outside today because those of you living in Houston know that it has been really, really rainy. That also means that we've had a lot of flight delays, and so all of the airplanes are taking off over my head right now, so look forward to that. Also, I have a male cardinal and a female cardinal that nest outside here, and they haven't been able to get groceries for a couple of days because it's been raining so hard. So I see them frantically moving about. I wonder if they're going to make a special appearance on camera, but they're certainly very busy, and I'm sure you are as well. So let's get into it. The first question today comes from John Lane, who asks if there is an easy way to identify a Tupelo tree. Now, if you've never heard of it, Tupelo tree is one of the iconic trees of East Texas. Whenever you think of that typical East Texas swamp, you think of bald cypress trees that are kind of dotted with Tupelo trees. And I also understand the question about, is there an easy way to identify them? Because I'm not a botanist, I'm not a forester, I'm not a dendrologist, and so to me, I sort of see Tupelo trees can be a little bit nondescript. They can look like several other species, and so it can be a little bit tough for me also to differentiate them between others. But it's an important tree to know, and so I understand wanting to figure that out. So there are several towns also in the southeastern United States that bear the name Tupelo. I know for sure that there's one in Mississippi, and the name Tupelo comes from a Native American Creek word that means swamp tree. So this is a tree that we've known about for hundreds of years. It also produces a really mild honey that is popular with beekeepers. Another name for tupelos are gum trees or black gum trees. That's not to be confused with sweet gum trees, which are a completely different genus and species of tree. So let's talk a little bit about how you can identify tupelos in southeastern United States. So there are three species of tupelo that are going to occur in this East Texas area. You have, they're all in the genus Nyssa, so Nyssa, that's the genus. You have Nyssa sylvatica, which is the black gum, that's the most common. Then you have Nyssa aquatica, which is water tupelo, and then you have Nyssa biflora, which is swamp tupelo. So Nyssa sylvatica is going to be the most common kind of tupelo tree. It grows in both upland areas and wetland areas. It prefers moist, well-drained soil. It has a simple leaf, so it's not a compound leaf, and they're alternate, which means they grow in kind of a stair step on the stem rather than right next to each other. So this is opposite, and then like this is alternate. The leaves are about 3 to 5 inches long, 1 to 3 inches wide. It's not a huge leaf. They generally don't have any tooth or serration on the edges, so they're just kind of this oblong, kind of classic looking leaf. It's a deep green on the top, a little bit paler on the bottom. And it has a bark that's really deeply furrowed and can actually resemble alligator skin in older individuals. And it does produce a fruit that's popular with wildlife. It's a sour fruit, and it kind of droops like that. So if you see a drooping fruit and white flowers, that's also a good indication that you're looking at a Tupelo tree. So that's Nyssa sylvatica. Now, Nyssa aquatica and Nyssa biflora are both going to be more common in more wet habitats. So if you're in the midst of like a bald cypress swamp and there are trees growing in standing water and you see a Tupelo tree, that's a really good indication that you're probably dealing with Nyssa aquatica or Nyssa biflora. And Nyssa aquatica is the classic tree that grows next to bald cypresses. It has this deeply buttressed system, and it has a really deep taproot. It can grow really, really large. It's a really lovely looking tree, and that's going to be the one that you see next to tupelos. And then Nyssa biflora grows in more acidic wetlands and next to flatwoods and depressions like what you would see in the big thicket. And another thing about this tree, the Tupelo tree, is that it produces really beautiful fall color. And so there is some cultivation of it. I haven't seen many Tupelo trees planted in Houston, but I think that would be a cool thing to happen. It produces fruit that wildlife like. It produces fall color, which us Houstonians are always craving since we don't necessarily get a lot of it. And it's a native tree, so it has a deep tap root, so it can withstand some of the changes in hydrology and the winds of our hurricane season. So I think that would be a good tree for us to plant a little more. So I hope that is at least somewhat helpful for identifying the Tupelo tree. And if you have any pictures to share of those with us, we'd love to see them. It's definitely a favorite tree of mine, and I hope that you get to see it next time you're out hanging about outside. Okay, I wanted to give a plug this episode for the Waugh Bridge Bat Colony. I've talked about it a little bit before, but it's one of my favorite places to go in urban Houston. It's certainly one of our most iconic urban wildlife communities that we have here. The Waugh Bridge Bat Colony is about 250 to 300,000 bats that hang out on Waugh Bridge, which is along Buffalo Bayou, and they hang out there year round. So it's not a particularly migratory population. You can have bats there in both summer, fall, and winter. But this time of year, summer, is probably the best time to go because they will just have birthed young, and you'll be able to see more bats than normal. You'll have some younger pups that are there underneath the colony. They moved under the Waugh Bridge because it has a great location next to the water. It's warm and it provides shelter, and so the bats sort of decided we're going to move in here. There was a decrease in the bat population after Hurricane Harvey, but to the best I can tell, the bats have returned to their pre-Harvey numbers. The population was able to recover pretty quickly. And every night around dusk, these bats emerge and go to parts near and far to feast upon thousands and thousands and thousands of mosquitoes. So they do us all a really important service. They also provide an important service in they can be food for other birds that hang around the Waugh Bridge. So you'll see yellow-crowned night herons, you'll see Cooper's hawks flying around that area, and you actually get to see some of the food chain in action as the bats go out to feed on mosquitoes, and then some of these predatory birds are feeding on the bats. And it's a really interesting behavior to see yellow-crowned night herons feasting on bats, like actually preying upon bats. It's not something that I had seen before I had gone to the Waugh Bridge. And also, I mean, there are a few things more romantic in this day and age than taking a socially distanced date to the Waugh Bridge so that you can watch the bats together. So if you can do it safely, I totally recommend you head out to Waugh Bridge and take a look at the hundreds of thousands of bats that are going to be out there this summer. It's a great place to hang out. And with that, I am going to conclude our short episode of Ask an Ecologist. Remember that you can submit your questions every week to me. You can email info@bayouland.org. You can leave them in the comments. And I'll talk to you guys next week. Stay safe.